Good afternoon. Hi everyone. I'm impressed everyone made it even though it's been raining this morning. Usually that means an emptying out where people realise it's raining outside. I don't really want to go anywhere. So thank you for joining us in person, especially after how hot it was on Monday. And hopefully it won't be so hot today. It's already pretty hot. Okay. I do have them on. Is it switched on? Oh, it's not switched on. Who needs to switch it on?
Thank you.
Just, my voice projects so well, I forget. Okay, now it's on. Hopefully everyone can hear me online. We'll just pretend they can. All right. Lecture 4. I can't believe it. Week 2. How's everyone feeling? You being excited? Yes, still excited by university? Yeah. All right, a few more weeks left. No, you're doing well. You are 1/5 of the way through. Okay, so let's get going. I did read, thank you for the feedback after last lecture. Some people thought I was going too slow. A lot of people thought I was going too fast. I will try to find a happy medium, but keep letting me know. I guess also remember that if you don't understand something I'm doing in the lecture, you can ask in your tutorial as well and in the lab time as well. But definitely let me know if you are if I'm going very much too fast or too slow. All right. So what do we do on Monday? We talked about if statements, we talked about control flow, and kind of switching on and off sections of code by using if statements. And then we a little bit started to go into loops, very little bit, and then we ran out of time. I went too fast, and then we kind of gave up on loops. So we'll do more loops today. And then what else I hope to do today? I also hope to do 2 more custom data types. So far you've done ints, chars, and doubles. And today I hope to do some custom ones like structs and enums. So a lot more excitement for you and a lot more things available as well to program with. And then if we have time, we'll do a loop inside a loop. Inside a loop, inside a loop. No, we'll just do one loop inside another loop. All right, lecture code. Sophia or Tom, could you please paste in the chat? Thank you. And okay, let's talk about loops. And let's write some code, because why not? It's midday, everyone should be awake. Why not start with a chunk of code? Why not start with a piece of code that we did before? I've even calibrated my pencil so I can write with it now, so much excitement happening. Someone on the chat has asked, does for loops exist in C? Absolutely they do, and we will do them next week on Monday. We will do a for loop instead of a while loop. You can use whichever one you want. Sometimes it's better to use a for loop, sometimes it's better to use a while loop. They're definitely not banned. Definitely not. Why would I ban a for loop? It's my favorite loop. Okay, so let's have a look at this piece of code here, and then we can kind of go through it, run through it, see what happens. Or should we just write a new piece of code? Let's write a new piece of code. Okay, let's write a new piece of code. Let's do a while with a counter to remind you of while loops. So we use while loops to kind of have code repeat itself over and over again, because C does things in order from, starting at the top, moving down. And so this allows us to repeat a section of code without just repeatedly copying and pasting the same piece of code over and over again. So what we want to be able to do is to be able to control that loop in such a way that it does something until a condition has been met. So three basic things to a loop. You have to declare and initialize a loop control variable, which is what you will use to control that loop. So that's what you will test for and see whether or not you want to keep going or you need to stop. Then you will test the loop counter inside your while statement, and then you will update the loop control as well, just to make sure that something is happening. Okay, so let's have a look. Okay, so let's write, I want to count from 1 to 10. How exciting. So I could really kind of do, okay, printf, 1. New line. And then I could do printf 2. New line. How exciting. This could go on for a while. And then I could do printf 3. And so on and so forth. And that would be super exciting. Do we think that's an efficient way to count from 1 to 10? Yes. Oh, someone's saying yeah. All right, what if I want to count from 1 to 100? Will that be an efficient way to do it? I'll be there for a while. It's pretty bad readability, pretty bad. Hey?
It would be a way of doing it.
It would be a way of doing it, absolutely, but it wouldn't be very efficient code. And yes, we don't really care about efficiency yet in 1511, but when you leave 1511, we do start to care a bit more about efficiency. So you can stop, hogging memory and so on and so forth. All right, so this is pretty inefficient. We really don't want to do something like this because it's going to leave us in a world of pain, and it's not very flexible either. It's very much hard-coded in, so that means I'm literally just writing 1, 2, 3, and that's all I can do in this program. So it's not a very flexible program either. Okay, well, I guess I could have, an int counter, and I could initialize it to 0, for example, and then I could just increase it every time inside my printf statement. So that could, also work somewhat every time. It would be quite messy. I guess what I could do is I could have the counter, and then I could have, a %d, and in here I could do counter first, then I will do a %d, and I will do counter +1, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. Do we think that's efficient? Not really. It's really doing the same thing as we were doing just by doing 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's not really doing much either. So it's also completely not efficient. So this is where those lovely while loops or for loops, just loops, that's where loops come in. They allow us to do all sorts of things like this just with a small piece of code. So if we, so the first thing we'll do is we will put in the while loop, we will declare, and we will initialize the loop control variable. I'm going to call it counter. Obviously, it doesn't have to be called counter, but I'm doing it as kind of like a way to count, so I'm using the word counter. Now I want to test my loop control. So I'm going to have a while, and inside the while, I'm going to test the control variable in here. Okay, if I want to count to 10, what do you think my control should be? What should I check for? Yeah. Well done. So I can do two things. I can either go, if I'm here from 0, I can go counter is, what did you say, less than or less than and equal to? Less than and equal to. Very good. Okay. So counter is less, that's more than, less than or equal to 10. And that will kind of keep me going, keep me counting. And then inside here, I'm going to print out a number and a new line. And I want counter to print out. And now the third part of a loop is inside. As the last thing you do inside a loop, you want to update that loop control variable so that you don't create an infinite loop. And if you remember, an infinite loop is a loop that keeps going forever and ever and ever. Well, not quite. It will stop at some stage, but or you can stop it yourself, the execution. Okay, so what should I be updating? Yeah, so I want to be updating the counter, and I'm going to say counter is equal to counter plus 1. Okay, and a few people have pointed out, yes, I can also, the same thing, and we will do a little bit more of this, saying counter plus plus will do exactly the same thing if you want. All that means is at 1. Yeah?
Is there any way to specify, like with counter plus plus, is there any way to specify how much increments by, like how Python has plus equals 1?
You can do exactly that in C as well, okay? But plus plus is just, so for those online, actually that was one of the feedbacks. For those online, the question was, is there a way to increment it by something other than 1, by doing plus equals to 3 or 4? And that's exactly what you do, and we will look more at that on Monday when we do functions and a few of those shorthands. But there is a way to do it by incrementing it with a consistent number. Okay, so let's run it. Yeah. Very good. Okay, I was going to print it out. It's going to start at 0, but I really just want to count from 1 to 10. So that means what will happen is my counter should really start at 1 because it will print the first counter out. Okay, very good. All right, so let's save it, and then we'll run it, and then we will okay, excellent, so no issues, and let's see it run for me. Ah, well done, it's doing it. It's doing exactly what I wanted to do. All right, who wants me to go through the code line by line just to show you what the loop is doing? Tom, can you poll, please? Wasn't looking at Tom, I don't know if he's... Can we go through it? We sure can, absolutely. I would love to. I'm always worried I'm going too slow, but I would love to. I love going through code. Okay, and also it gives me a chance to show off how good the pen is calibrated now. Okay, so let's have a look. So we go inside our main function, we go up here, and we have a int counter over here. So that means that we have made a variable. Its name is counter. It is of type int, and then we assign the value 1 into it. So we put a 1 into it. Excellent. Now we go into the while loop, and we say the condition is whilst counter, so the counter is equal to 1 right now. So is 1 less than or equal to 10? Yes, it is, which means it's true, and that means I go inside the while loop. So inside the while loop, I use the printf command to print out to terminal. My %d placeholder gives me counter. So counter is, so I'll just do terminal here. That's what's going to output. It's going to output counter. Counter right now is 1, so it's going to output 1, and it's going to move to a new line from this new line here. I will then go to line 17, and I will update my counter. So counter is equal to counter plus 1. I'll do the right-hand side first, which means I'll take counter, which is currently 1, and I'll add 1 to it. It'll give me 2, and I'm going to assign it into this counter here. So this is now going to become 2. Okay. And then I will go back to my loop, and I will check again. Is 2, so is counter, which is now 2, is 2 less than or equal to 10? Yes, it is. It's true. So I will go inside the while loop, and I will print out the counter again. Counter is equal to 2, so I will print out the 2 now. And then I will increase the counter by 1, so it will now become 3. Okay, I'll go back into the while loop, and I'll check again. Is 3 less than or equal to 10? Yes, it is. It is true. So I will go inside the while loop, print it out again, increase the counter again to a 4, and so on and so forward until, let's say, this counter, so it'll go up to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it will increase it to 10. And then I will go up the top into my condition, and I will check, is 10 less than or equal to 10? Yes, it is. That's the truth. So I'll go in here, and I'll print out a 10 as well here, and I'll increase the counter again to 11. It will go back to the top, and it will say, is 11 less than or equal to 10? That is now false, which means that I will now exit at the end of the curly brackets. I will exit on this line over here, and at this point, my counter is equal to 11, and I will just return 0 to come out of the main. And that's how while loops work. And what you get really is, what's really important is understanding what it comes out of the while loop out of it with, because that's what's going to also be able to give you control and flexibility into what you can do with different pieces of code and sort of programming more efficiently. And we'll do some problems like that as well. Okay. Okay, so let's have a look. So that's our while and a quick while counter. Okay, let's try a while condition. It's very similar. I won't do a while condition. I might do a sentinel because that's where we kind of stopped on Monday. Okay, so a few people kind of define sentinel. It's the end of file. It's the end of something. Yeah, but it is also considered to be like a flag value. And we use it as a flag to say something is happening or something is not happening. Such as, right now I'm flagging that I have not turned the lights off. I don't know why they've gone off. Thank you, Tom. Just let's see how long that takes. Okay. Okay, so let's have a look. If we use a sentinel. Okay, so my problem is I want to read in some numbers until a negative number has been entered and sum up all the positive numbers. Let's think through the steps to solve this. Okay, so how do we think we're going to solve it? Okay, so first off, I want to be able to read in some numbers. How do I read in numbers from terminal? Scanf, yep. Okay, so I'll be using a scanf here. What should I do next? I want to read in some numbers until a negative number has been entered. So what should I check for potentially? Yeah, I want to know if it's positive or negative. Yeah? Yeah, so I want to know if it's greater than 0. Okay, so I want to check if my read in value is greater than or less than 0, which means it's either positive or negative. Okay, and if it is less than 0, I want to stop scanning in. If it is more than 0, then I want to add it to the sum. Okay, and then at the end, I guess I want to output my sum by using a printf statement, for example. Okay, so we've got kind of like a rough outline of what we might do. So let's see if we can actually code it in. So if we have a look here, we want to keep reading in numbers until something has happened. So if we want to keep doing something over and over again, that's telling us that we want to use a loop. So I want to read in these numbers on repeat until, which means here we will need to do a loop to make it happen. Okay, so if we need to have a loop, let's start to go from the first go. Okay, so what will determine for me what I'm going to do? What will be my loop control variable? It won't help me to have a counter, will it? Because I don't know how many numbers are going to be entered. It could be 100, it could be 5, it could be 10. All I know is that I need to be reading in until a negative number has happened. So that means this is a place where I would use this type of sentinel control. And that means when I check, I have a control variable that tells me something is a positive number or a negative number. So I'm going to have a little flag, okay? I'm going to call it flag, and I'm going to set it to 0, okay? So I am going to use 0 if number is positive, and 1 if number is negative. So if the number is 1, then I want to stop my while loop. If the number is 0, I want to keep going inside my while loop. So I'm going to check for it perhaps in my while condition, and then I'm going to do something. Okay, so let's also, what else do we need to have? Do we need to have any other variables? What do we reckon? Any other variables? Yeah. Yeah, sum, exactly. I need to have a sum. Okay. Just over here. And over here. Yeah.
Sorry. I told you I got
I think you heard her say at the beginning, she has not hit a head in ages. And oh, almost. Okay, excellent.
Sorry.
Oh, Sophia. Okay, so we've got our flag variable. It's set to 0. We've got our sum variable. Does everyone like that sum variable? Is it looking good right now? Yes. It should be initialized. I'm going to leave it uninitialized and make a little note next to it so I can show you why it should be initialized. Okay, so I'll show you what happens when it's not initialized. So I'm going to leave a little comment there that we should definitely initialize it. Okay, and we need to also scan in these numbers. We need to be saving this number into something when we scan it in. So we're going to need one more variable. I'm going to call it number, and that's what we're going to use for our scan in. Okay, so first off, up here, we probably need to scan in the first number and kind of, you know, be able to see, or what do you think we should do? What are people's ideas to solve this problem? What are we thinking? Should I kind of have a look, scan the first number outside the while loop, scan the number inside the while loop? Yeah.
Can't we, instead of using a separate flag value, can't we use number itself to check whether it's a negative or positive value?
We could do that. We could do that. But it depends how you're going to structure the while loop as well. So remember, in coding, there is a whole bunch of ways to solve. The stream has gone. So there's always a number of ways that you'll be able to solve a problem. Actually, can the people online tell me if your stream is going? Because on my studio, it's paused. Okay, just me then. Okay, so let's have a look. Someone's saying inside the while loop, so let's check inside the while loop. Okay, I'm going to do the scanning in inside the while loop, so I'm going to scan F. And I'm going to scan F %D. And I'm going to place it inside number. Okay, and then I want to check the number. Is it going to be positive or negative? So mind you, I'm going to make mistakes in my code all the time so that you can see what mistakes can be made. Code does not always come to perfection straight away. Okay, so I'm going to check if that number is greater than 0. Okay, is that going to do it for me? What's wrong with it? Yeah, okay, very good. Okay, I can do that. So I can check if it's less than 0. And if it is less than 0, then I would want to change my flag to now be equal to 1. Okay, and that means what happens now? Now if I start to kind of write in here things, they're going to keep going. Actually, that's a good thing to demonstrate. So let's keep going through it. Okay, so I'm going to, okay, if the number is greater than 0, it's going to skip all of this and it's going to come out outside, and I might want to add it to my sum. So I'll say sum is equal to sum plus number. And then I'll just keep going, and that will be a glorious, glorious time. And I want to keep doing it while flag is equal to 0 because that means the number is positive. Okay, there's going to be a few issues with this code. Okay, don't freak out. And then at the end, I'm going to output the sum is, and I'm going to use a %D, and I'm going to have sum. Okay, there's a whole bunch of things wrong. Okay, let's run it so we can see what is wrong, and then we're going to look at how we can solve it and how we can make it all better. So let's compile it. Okay, a whole bunch of things wrong. Very good. Okay, first thing wrong, I want to check equality. So I need 2 equal signs to check for equality because I'm not assigning a value inside the while loop. Okay, next thing wrong. Okay, and so that's the first thing that it picked up. Okay, this is why it's useful to read our compiler error messages. It's saying using the result of an assignment as a condition without parentheses. Basically, it means you should really be using 2 equal signs because you're not assigning, you're equating. Okay, great. So we've fixed that. So let's try and run it again, see what that gives us. Okay, now something is happening here, and this is why I wrote a little comment. This one is very common. sum may be uninitialized in this function, okay? So because we didn't initialize sum, what happens is it has no value, but here when you get to line 31, what you're doing is you're trying to do sum plus number, but sum has nothing inside it. So when it tries to access whatever's inside sum and add it to your number, it's going to result in a bit of an issue in that there is nothing there. And this is why it's important to initialize our variables so that we don't encounter this issue as we do our code. Okay, excellent. So we fixed that one now. We've initialized it. Let's try and run it again. Okay, so it is, okay, it's waiting for my input. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, minus 7. I shouldn't have done that because now I have to calculate the sum of those numbers. 3, 6, 10, 15, it's definitely not 14. Okay, so something is wrong. How do I solve it? One of the best ways is to go through the code. Pretend you are the computer. See what's going on and see what's wrong in it. So let's try and do that, okay? And this is, you're going to encounter issues all the time. It's fine to have issues in your code. Yeah?
The negative number is being added to sum.
The negative number is being added to the sum. That is correct. And the reason it's doing that, it's changing the flag, but then it's coming out here, and it's adding it. So if we go through the code so you can see why that's happening, let's quickly do that. Okay, line 22, we've got flag, it is int, the name is flag, it's set to 0. Line 23, we've got sum, it is an int, and it's set to 0 as well. Line 24, we've got number, and it is an int, and it's got nothing in it right now. So we go into our while loop and we check, is flag equal to 0? So it's basically checking, is 0 equal to 0? Yes, it is, and it goes inside the while loop. It scans in a number in here, so that means whatever I've scanned in there, it's going to go inside here. And then it's going to check if it's positive or negative. So if that number is negative, it's going to set the flag to 1, and it's going to come out here, fantastic, and then it's still going to do sum is equal to sum plus number. So whatever my sum was at the time, it's still going to add the number in. It doesn't care that it was negative. So what do you think I could do to kind of not have that happen, potentially? Too many people, too many options, yeah.
Could you move the sum equals sum plus number inside?
Yeah.
And that way it will just never happen if, like, you know, there's a negative number.
So put it inside which brackets? Put it in.
The braces below flag equals 1.
Below flag is equal to 1. Okay, so what that will do to me, that's not a bad suggestion, but what that will do is it will read a negative number and then it will still add it in because it will be inside that if statement. Yeah?
Put it inside an else one.
You could do it inside an else, absolutely. You could also check for the number being positive and add it in and then go backwards and set the flag to 0 if it's not.
Can you just break? Like after the
Okay, so this is going to be asked all the time and I'm going to answer it. You can break out of things by using the keyword break. Please don't do it in 1511, okay? And the reason for that, there is a good reason for that. So when we debug code, when we get much better at coding, we use breaks all the time because it allows us to see where we are and it allows us to debug our code. But in 1511, we really want you to think about what each statement is doing. And breaking out of statements can be the lazy way to kind of do whatever you want to do without worrying about the side effects. Yeah?
Can we put return 0 in the, like, if it's like the program terminates, if it sees a negative number, and then else if number's positive, add them together?
Yeah, we could absolutely do that, but then it will miss out on that final printf statement where it will print the result. But we could absolutely return out of there because we don't care about it anymore, but it will miss out on printing out the sum. Okay, so let's try a few of those things. A few good things have been suggested. Let's try one of them. Okay, so someone said, okay, if the number is negative, change the flag to 1. Else, we assume it's positive. And if it's positive, then I want to add it to the sum. Okay, so I'm going to hide it inside there. Cut that. paste that in, okay. Okay, so this was one of the suggestions. So now we're going to check if the number is negative, and if it is, we're going to change the flag to 1, and that means we'll come out here, and print out the sum. If it's positive, it's going to go inside the else, and it's going to add it in. So let's try running it now and see if that has fixed it. And actually, oh no, I did that, if that's annoying me. Okay, let's run it. 2, 3, 4, 5. Minus 4. Okay, the sum is 15. So now it's giving out the right sum, okay, because we've just kind of elsed it and hid that sum away. Okay, how are we feeling? Do you want me to run through the code line by line? Yep. Okay, good. Let's do it. And I'll do it with those values that I put in. Okay, so I'm going to use these values as my testing bed. Okay, int flag is equal to 0. So we're going to create a flag. It's going to be equal to 0. We're going to create sum. It's going to be equal to 0. And then we're going to have number. I'm going to go into the while loop and check. Flag right now is 0, so that means I'm checking is 0 equal to 0. Yes, it is. So I'm going to go into this while loop and enter the curly brackets. I'm going to scan in a number into number. So the first number I entered is 1, which means 1 is going to go inside here. And then I'm going to check. Okay, sorry, let me just scroll this down a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to check if that number is less than 0. So the number I entered is 1, so it's going to say, is 1 less than 0? No, it's not, so it's going to skip over and go to else, and then it's going to do sum is equal to sum plus number. So it's going to go on the right-hand side. Sum right now is 0, number right now is 1. It's going to add them up and assign them into this variable. So 0 plus 1 is 1, and that means inside here is now 1. It's going to go back to check the condition of the while loop. So it's going to check again, is 0 equal to 0? Yes, it is. So I'm going to go into this loop. I'm going to scan in the next number, which was 2. So that means 2 is now going to go in here. I'm going to check if 2 is less than 0. It's not, so I'm going to skip this if statement and go into the else. And I'm going to do this sum is equal to sum plus number again. So that means my sum right now is equal to 1, and my number is 2. So I'm going to do 1 plus 2, which is 3, and assign it into sum. So now sum has 3 inside it. Okay, great. I'm going to go back out and check again. My flag is still 0, so I'm going to check is 0 equal to 0. Yes, it is. I'm going to go inside the loop, scan it in. It's going to be a 3. Check is 3 less than 0. No, it's not, so that means I'm going to enter this else. And I'm going to go in here and add the sums again. So my sum right now is 3. My number right now is 3 also. So I'm going to do 3 plus 3 and assign it into sum. So now that's going to be equal to 6. I'm going to go back and check my condition of the while loop again. So it's going to be 0 equal to 0. Yes, it is. Go back inside it. The next number is 4. Is 4 less than 0? No, it's not. So I'm going to go into the else. And I'm going to say sum right now is 6, number right now is 4, so I'm going to assign the new value into sum is 10. Go back in, do it again, now assign the number 5 in, check if 5 is less than 0. It's not, so I'm going to go to the else statement and then do my sum again. So the sum right now is 10, the number is 5, so that means I'm now assigning 15 into sum. Great, I'm going to go back in, check, the flag is still good. So I'm going to go into my scanf. I now enter a -4. So now I'm going to put a -4 in here, and I'm going to check, is -4 less than 0? Yes, it is. So what happens is I'm going to go in here, my flag is now going to be set to 1. I'm going to exit out here, check again, is flag, which is now equal to 1, is it equal to 0? No, it's not. So I'm going to skip these brackets out and go straight to line 35 to print out the sum is whatever it is equal to, 15 at the time. And that's using kind of a sentinel value to keep yourself grounded a bit. So you kind of, it's like a truth or false basically. If something happens, you set it to a different value and you flag in your code when something has occurred. Okay. How is everyone feeling? Tom, can you poll? Yeah.
Could you run the program? There's something I want to try.
Yeah.
Run the program, and for the scanf, could you enter just number, like the text number?
You want me to enter a character?
No, enter number, just like the name, number, the name of the variable.
So,
As in run the code.
yeah.
And now you can enter one value, say 1.
Well, it's not gonna work.
As in the 1 as the number.
The number.
Yeah, the number 1. Okay.
Yeah.
Then enter. Now can you type the word number? That's what you use as a variable, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now press enter. Okay, because I get a bug where it just repeatedly says, repeatedly puts the print statement that I put before that.
Well, so what's happening here? What happens if I put 2 and now I do -4? And now I do -3. And now I do 6, 56. What a disaster. Why do we think that's happening?
Because I get this. I put a print statement to say enter value before that. And now it just keeps printing the print statement and doesn't stop unless I break out of it. I was going to ask why, do you know why that is?
Well, because you're not scanning, you're never, you can post it on the forum and tag me. I will have a look at it. Something is magically happening. Use spaces in your while statement. Okay, that's just a side point for style. Okay, so Tom, you're doing it. Thank you, Tom. Okay, let's have a look at a loop inside a loop. Okay, so you can do magical things with loops. You can do a loop inside a loop. And don't worry, we're not always going to go straight on the lecture notes. I'm going to jump around a bit. Sometimes I'm just going to code. Sometimes I'm going to go back to the slides. And then we're going to return the next week. So don't worry, I'm just going to read what's happening in the room, hopefully with the polls. Okay, so what happens if we put a loop inside a loop? Just as you're getting your head around one loop, we're going to add another loop. So I always think of the clock, right? We've got a loop inside a loop in the clock. There's seconds, and every time 60 seconds ticks over, only 1 minute goes. So the inside loop does many, many, many runs, whilst the outside loop does, a run for each, however many of the inside loop. So what it means is the inside loop will end up running a lot of times and the outside loop not as many times, okay? So we're doing a loop-to-loop, yeah? We're doing a 2-dimensional loop, and this is going to be useful for arrays, which we will do in 2 weeks' time. So something else to look forward to. So let's have a look at how we would do a loop inside a loop. So let's, for example, have a question that prints out a grid of numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's break down the problem and see where we kind of go with that. Okay, so if we go to our grid, and I've got a lovely loop here, and I always think, okay, why don't we break it down into the simplest problem possible? I could probably print out just one line, okay? I could print out just one line of that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how about we start with that? We print out just one line of that. Okay, so I want to keep increasing it. I'm going to hard code it to start with, and then maybe you can go off and try and do it without hard coding the number of the length of the row. So let's do and loop control variable first, so int counter. Is everyone on VLab? Is anyone's VLab starting to go slow? Okay. Okay. Are you? Okay. All right. Okay. Int counter. I'm starting to lag. That's why I'm. Okay. I'm going to set it to 0 to start with, and then we'll see what happens. Okay. So I'm going to print out a line of numbers. It's just going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is kind of what I did 1 to 10 before with a new line, and I kind of increased the counter each time, and it was amazing use of a while loop. So I'm going to use a while loop, and I'm going to check if the counter is going to be less than 5. Okay, I'm going to be annoying. If there is that beautiful number 5 here that's never going to change, what can I make that?
Constant.
Yeah, a constant. Let's make it a constant, because why not? We haven't used a constant in our code. Let's do define, and we'll make max 5. So then here I would check that counter is less than max. And if it is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to print out a number and a space after it, and it's going to be my counter. And then always what I forget to do, always, and you'll see it, you'll get an infinite loop, I'm going to increase my counter by 1 so that it moves up and I can, get somewhere. Okay, what's going to happen? Something is not going to work here. Yeah, okay, so first of all, starting from 0, that means it's going to print out a 0. I don't really want a 0. I want to start from 1. And it is going to end up at 4, yeah. Yes, I am, because I want to print out a space over here, because it goes number, space, number, space. So that's why. Yep. Okay, great. You're right. I'm also going to end up at 4. I'm not going to end up at 5, because my max is 5, so it will exit out before it's meant to. Okay, so let's have a look what this does if we run it now. Okay, and let's run it. Oh, amazing. It's printing out one row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, feels like we're getting somewhere. Okay, what happens now if I want to kind of go and print out more? So for every, yeah, I'm going to put a loop inside my other loop, which means that I will print out for every 5, I'll go again inside. Okay. Greater than, less than. I also have a big problem with rows and columns. So probably best to call it a row or a column. I'm going to call it a column. Okay. Which one's which? Thank you. Okay. All right. I'm going to mix them up. I always mix them up in the code. Just bear with me. Bear with me. Columns are the things that holds things up. All right. So I'm going to change that to column. I'm going to change that to column. I'm going to change that to column, and I'm going to change this to column. Okay. So inside this while loop, I'm now going to have another while loop, okay? And this one is going to test my rows. And I'm going to test the same condition whilst row is less than or equal to max. I'm going to do some stuff. And we're going to check what works and what doesn't. We're going to go through it. Okay, so I'm going to print out. I'm sorry, it's lagging. Come on, I've already printed that out. There we go. So much thinking for just one printf statement. I reckon all of you will be faster than me at this rate. Okay, I'm going to print out the number. I think my B-Lab's ready for a break. And I'm going to print out the row, then I'm going to increase it. Okay. Okay, so what do we think of this? Will this work? Maybe, maybe not. Should we just see what it does? Let's just see what it does. It's not going to work. I'll just be honest with you. But let's see what it does, just because I'm sick of waiting for now this is slow. Come on, come on. Okay, well, it compiles at least, but let's see what it prints out for us. Oh, cool. It prints out absolutely not what we want. It prints out 2 lots of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all in one line, which is not that nice. Don't really want that. So let's see what has gone wrong. Oh my God, who can work like this? It's not moving at all. Oh my God. I can feel the air conditioning now, so this has gone. No, this is, okay. I really wanted to finish that problem because, okay, let's have a 5-minute break because it's dictating that to me. It's not moving at all. So let's have a 5-minute break and we'll come back and hopefully it kind of comes back with us. Ah, look at that. why I keep calling it a fake Kahoot, but there we go. Okay, so when we ran it, this piece of code, it gave us absolute rubbish. Definitely not what we wanted. What it gave us looked like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and there is a reason it did that. And again, I'm going to run through the code so you can see why it did that. But first, before I start, for those of you in the YouTube chat, please keep your messages respectful at all times. We're all here to learn. You will be kicked out of the chat if you're not respectful in the chat. And if you've been moderated at least 3 times, you will be kicked out. Okay, so let's have a look at what's happening over here. So we've got a row and a column. So first up, line 22, we declare a row variable and we assign 1 to it. On line 23, we declare a column variable, we assign 1 to it. Then we go inside the first loop and we check. Our max is 5. It's sitting up there, so I won't be able to get it. The column is equal to 1, so is 1 less than or equal to 5? Yes, it is. So I'm going to go inside the next loop. Okay, I'm going to check the next condition. So is row is equal to 1. Is row less than or equal to 5? Yes, it is. So I'm going to enter the second while loop as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to print out a %d. So let's have a terminal output here, and we're going to write down what is going to be printed out to terminal. So we're going to %d row. So row is equal to 1. It's going to print out 1. It's not printing this out, but I'm just showing that it's printing out a little space there. And then what it does is it changes row is equal to row plus 1, so 1 plus 1, and then you assign that into row. So row is now 2. Okay, great. I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to check again. Is 2 less than 5? Yes, it is. So I'm going to go back inside here. I'm going to print out the row. Row is 2 and a little space. I'm going to increase it by 1 again, so it's going to become 3. I'm going to go back and check. Is 3 less than 5? Yes, it is. So I'm going to go inside the while loop. I'm going to print out a 3 and a little space. And then I'm going to increase it by 1 again, so it's now 4. I'll go back out and I'll check. Is 4 less than or equal to 5? Yes, it is. I'm going to go inside it, print out a 4 and a little space, increase this now to 5. Go back in here, check. Is 5 less than or equal to 5? Yes, it is. So I'm going to still go inside this while loop, print out a 5 and a space. I'm going to increase this now to 6. Check. Is 6 less than or equal to 5? No, it's not. So I'm going to break out of this loop. And then when I've broken out of this loop, I will go to this line, and it's going to tell me, okay, printf %d column. Column is equal to 1, which means I'll print out a 1. And then I'm going to increase my column. So it's going to be 1 plus 1 in here. It's going to assign a 2 now here. And then it's going to go and check my condition. Is 2 less than 5? Yes, it is. Great. So I'm going to go inside. My row is still 6, though. So it's not going to go inside the internal loop because 6 is greater than 5. So it's not going to, this is going to be wrong. So it's going to go out here again, print out the column, which is now 2, and then increase it by 1 again to 3. So it's never going to go inside that inside loop again because the row is going to be greater than 5. Okay, any thoughts or ideas how I can fix it? Because what I really want to happen is I want to print this out, then I want to go to a new line and start printing the rows again. So what are some thoughts about what I can do? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I really want to be able to go inside the row again, so I need to reset the value of row. Now, where do we think that should happen? What line should I reset the value?
In the outer loop. 30.
Yep. Okay. So inside here, I want to reset the value of row. Okay, so I'm going to say row is equal to 0. 1, sorry. So used to always being at 0. Okay, assigning 1 back to it, which means I'm now going to be able to go back in here. Okay, what about this? Should I be printing out the columns as well? Yeah. Yeah, I don't really need to print out the columns because that doesn't make any sense. Because that means I'm printing out twice. Oh, God. Here we go. Excellent. So the only thing I'm missing is a new line somewhere, because otherwise I'm just printing it all out in one line. Where should I print out the line break? Yep. Where? Yeah, which line?
31.
Yeah, there we go, beautiful. So over here, I want to print out a new line to go to the next. So after I print out a whole row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I come out of this internal while loop. I want to print out a new line, because what it will do is it will move me onto the next line, and then I could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again. Okay, let's see what happens now, and then we can run through it. It really doesn't want to do anything today. Okay, so now let's run it. Ah, amazing. And it's doing exactly what we wanted to do. Okay, so let's have a look. Let's have a look. Who wants to run through it line by line, or are people feeling happy with it? Show of hands if you want line by line. A few people? Okay, let's do it line by line quickly again, just so that you can see the kind of where it's going and what it's doing. Okay, so all right, so let's have out here, that's going to be my terminal output. Okay, line 22, I've got a row variable, line 20, and it's equal to 1. Line 23, I've got a column variable, and it's equal to 1 as well. I go inside line 25 and check my loop, and I'll check that column is less than or equal to max. Max is hash defined as 5, so my column is 1, so what I'm checking here is 1 less than or equal to 5. Yes, it is. So I'm going to go inside this loop. Row is equal to 1. That's great. There it is. And then I'll go inside my next while loop. Is 1 less than or equal to 5? Yes, it is. So I'm going to go inside this while loop. I'm going to print out the row. The row is 1, so I'll print that out with a little space. And then I'll say row plus 1, so which is 1 plus 1. That's equal to 2. So I'll update that variable to 2. I'll go back to the while loop and I'll check again, is 2 less than or equal to 5? Yes, it is. So I'll print out my next thing and a little space, and then I'll update it by 1 again, so it'll become 3. Great. Okay, I'll go back around and check my loop. Is 3 less than or equal to 5? Yes, it is. So I'm still going inside this loop, printing out my %d and a little space, and then I'm increasing the row by 1. So it's now becoming 4. Okay, great. Go back out, check. Is 4 less than or equal to 5? Yes, it is. Fantastic. So I'm going to go back inside this while loop. I'm going to print out the 4 with a little space, and then I'm going to increase it by 1 again. So now it's equal to 5. Go back in and check. Is 5 less than or equal to 5? Yes, it is. So I'm going to go back inside the while loop, print out the 5 and a little space, and then I'm going to increase it by 1. Okay, great. I'll go back and check my loop now. So is 6 less than or equal to 5? No, it's not, which means I now come out of the loop. I break out of it. And what happens now is I print out a new line. So that means I'm now going to move to a new line over here. And then I'm going to increase my column by 1. So this column is now going to become 2. I'm going to go back out to my outer loop because I'm inside the outer loop now, and I'm going to check, is 2 less than or equal to 5? Yes, it is, which means I'm going to go in here, and this over here is now going to reset to me, reassign a 1 to a row, and that means I start this internal loop all over again, and I check again, is 1 less than 5? Yes, it is. I'm going to go in there, print out a 1, and so on and so forth. And I'll go through it 5 more times because it's going to go until max as well. Okay, how are we feeling about a loop inside a loop? Tom, can you poll? Thank you. Okay, good. Maybe good. Hopefully good, because now we're going to maybe do a little Kahoot to wake up, not a Kahoot, a fake Kahoot, and then we'll do and then we'll go and look at structs and enums. No, you don't. I saw that backslash. I've just deleted it. I don't know how it got there, who put it there. Clearly me sometime, but when, I don't know. Okay, here we go. All right, let's start so we can get through it all. It's very intense music. What's happening? Is nothing working today? Nothing at all. What does it say? Oh, here we go, here we go, here we go. We're back. Okay. Okay. I got a lot of people. This one is a bit tricky. Sorry, everyone. Yeah. Just seeing if anyone played with scanf after the lecture. Oh. Okay. All right. What about now? Oh, sorry, that should be F4 now. Don't look at that. I use the same piece of it. It should be F and then 4. What will it be? Ooh. Oh, no, I didn't mean to do that. Ooh. Okay. Okay, very good. All right, here we go, last one. Obsessed with the counters, apparently. Wow. Look at that, the best is actually the best. Who's the best? Is this person in the theatre? Imagine the Oh, look at that. Even calling themselves the best, that deserves a chocolate. Just knew what was going to happen. Loops, I've got it. Oh, look at that. I can cross it out. Nice. All right. I know now what to do further on for next problems. Okay, yeah.
For the question that the 3 divided by 6,
Yeah.
right? They both ends.
No, they weren't. One was a double. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why I said I really tried to, I don't know. Okay, let's talk about a few more data types. These are custom ones that we make up ourselves, basically. Okay, so we're going to talk about structures today. I know some of you had an unfortunate introduction to structures on Monday when we forgot that we haven't done structures and had an exercise about structures in our labs. That's now gone. That's just the Monday people. Everyone else is okay. The Monday people got done. Sorry about that. But for those of you that haven't yet been introduced to structures, they are another custom data type in C. And basically, they're a way to create custom battery, I saw someone said something about batteries on the chat, and I was reading that. So they're a way to create custom variables. And what a structure does is it kind of puts together any variable inside it that I think might be related to each other, but they don't have to be of the same type. Okay, so it's like a little mixed bag of tricks, right? So for example, you know, I have a bag of jelly beans. My structure in there will be, perhaps I'll have a character for the color of jelly bean. I might have an int for a number of jelly beans in the packet. And the structure will be like the packet itself. I might have a weight of that packet. So they're all kind of different types of variables inside it, but they all relate to whatever that structure is. So it helps us to organize related but different components into one structure. So it's not homogeneous, which you will learn something else is. But it's useful in kind of defining real life things. Can anyone think of something in real life that you would need something like this for? Especially those that were there on a Monday, they got a, yeah. Pardon? Student details, is that what you said? That's what I heard, so that's what, yeah, that student details is an excellent one. You probably got a Monday tute because my tutors love using the student details as an example of a structure. Yeah. Someone over there is saying a library. Yeah, absolutely, library could. A potato, I'm not really sure how a potato classifies as a structure. I guess you could have different types of potatoes. Okay, books, yes, could be, absolutely. One that really kind of always stands out is having a coordinate point. You have an X and a Y, but they are really related to one point. So they kind of go together in a structure. And there's lots of ways that we kind of structure things together, and then we use a struct. So in C, a struct is defined outside of your main function. And that means that it's available to wherever you use it in any function, which we will do more next week off, but it will be available to all of your code everywhere. So you define outside of the main, but you declare something inside of your main. So you will declare the struct, and then you will initialize the struct. So let's have a look what it looks like. Okay, sometimes I think it's confusing seeing it like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just literally going to create one for you in code, because I think it's easier to understand. Now, did I do? Yes. What should we do? What structure should we have? Anyone? I don't want to use student details. It's so boring. Okay, let's do something exciting. What should we have? Jelly beans? Let's do it. All right. We had an exam question about jelly beans a few years ago. Struct of dog types. I have had that before. Okay, so we want to have a struct about jelly beans. Okay, so outside of my main, I'm going to define that struct. Okay, so the syntax for that is to use the keyword struct, and then you will name that struct. So it's frozen again. wake up. Okay, I think this one, let's call it jelly bean. I even typed jelly bean. There we go. Wake up. You will have a curly bracket, and inside those curly brackets will be what is belonging inside that struct. But notice one particular thing here is you have a semicolon after your closing curly bracket, okay, outside a struct. So when you define a struct, in the syntax you will have a curly bracket to demonstrate that you have finished your declaration, okay, your definition of this struct, not declaration. So you finished defining the struct. As you go on to kind of get to know C, the reason for that is you can actually have something here in between the curly bracket and the semicolon to give it a different name. And so we do, that's why we put a semicolon to show that we have finished this definition. Okay, so what can be inside our jelly bean struct? What could we have? Let's have a char color. What else can we have? I'm only doing char because we haven't done strings. What else can we have? Int amount.
Tastiness.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, int amount. We can have oh, that's a nice one. Double weight, and that's given us a reason to use a weight. I'm going to lose it at VLab any minute now. For someone that has worked with computers for so long, they really hate me. Okay, here we go. All right, so now we have this beautiful struct. People are saying toxicity. I don't know who's having toxic jelly beans. My goodness, please don't. So we've got 4 things inside there. We can have many more than that, okay? But we're going to just stick with 4 for now. So what we've done is we've defined that we're going to use a structure perhaps inside our code. Okay, so the first thing, struct, is defined outside of our main function. Now inside the main function, we will declare that we will use a struct. Okay, so this is where, yeah. Okay, so this is the syntax we use in C, and it's because I can have something in between that curly bracket and the semicolon. So the semicolon tells the compiler we're done with this definition. Okay, so you've finished it. Otherwise, it might be waiting for something else there. That's a very simple way to kind of explain it, I guess. And we might see that later on as you use C. Okay, so now we will declare it inside our main. Okay, so to declare a struct, you will say which struct you're declaring, and that's because really I can have more than one struct here. I've got a jelly bean struct, maybe I will have a struct for a packet in here as well, because that's exciting. And maybe this struct packet might have inside it double weight, I don't know, int packet size, oh, brand, that's a nice one. Char brand, blah, 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 right? So when I declare the struct that I'm going to use, I need to say which struct is it that I'm using. So let's say I want to start by using the jelly bean struct. So I will say that I want to use struct jelly bean. And what this has done is it has said, it's like saying int or char or double. That's what that's doing. It's saying I want to declare that I want a struct, something of type struct jelly bean. And now I give it a variable name, okay? So, I don't know, bean. How exciting, okay. So this is saying what type it is, and this is the variable name. Okay, great. So now we have, oh, someone's asked such a good question. Can you put a struct inside a struct? What do you reckon? Yeah. You can do so many wonderful things. You can put a struct inside a struct, inside a struct. You've just done a loop inside a loop. Yeah, you can absolutely put a struct inside a struct. Yeah.
If you're going to put like struct1 inside struct2, say, then do you have to define the one that you put inside? Do you define it first, or?
Well, not necessarily, because it just, so you do, but We're not going to go into a struct inside a struct yet, but we will, as in above it, yes, yeah.
Could we have
I mean, we're going to do multi-file systems as well later on, which will mean that you are defining things in a different place altogether and then calling it a day, which is much neater programming because this is starting to get messy. Okay. Someone wants to put a loop inside a struct. Let's not and say we did. Okay, so now we need to assign values to a struct variable. Okay, now we use a special syntax. So what we do is we really need to know which one you're going to assign something to because I've got a whole bunch of things inside this jelly bean. So basically what happens is it creates this variable and it's called bean, but this variable bean has color, it has amount, it has weight, it has tastiness. So it's got a few things. So I can't just say, okay, I want to assign a value to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, bean is equal to 5. Type. Because that's not going to make any sense. And right now this is making no sense because it's not typing for me. Come on, wake up.
So is bean of type jelly bean or type struct?
It's of type struct jelly bean. Because I can have a struct packet and then I could have a variable name for that. You can have many different structs outside of your main. So I'm saying which struct is the variable part of and then I name the variable. So bean, and then what we use is a dot to access a member of that struct. And I will say, which one is it? I want to access color. So the dot will tell me that I'm accessing bean, I'm going inside color, and now I'm going to assign a value to it. Okay, it's a char, so I've just assigned C to it because why not? I might want to do an amount as well, so I'll do bean.amount is equal to 5. I might have a weight, so I'll have bean.weight, and it's going to be equal to 6.4. And then tastiness, I don't know what a tastiness of a jelly bean is. They really vary across brands. It's hard to tell. Okay, great. So now we've assigned all of these values to it. Let's see how we, by the same token, we can print out and use the same things. So let's say the jelly bean I'm not going to fix the spelling error because it's going to take like 5 minutes the way it's going. So the jelly bean of color %C has amount %D. Let's just do 2 to start with, okay? And so my %C placeholder is going to go to bean.color to access what's sitting inside it. And my %D placeholder is going to go to bean.amount. Okay, let's try that and see what it gives us. Just a basic structure. Okay, save. Someone's asked why the char assigned with single quotes, because it's saying it's an ASCII character. Single quotes just mean it's a character. Okay, let's try it out. Ah, God.
Start using VS Code.
I'm so tempted to go to my local VS Code, but I can't because DCC doesn't work on a Mac properly.
Question.
Yeah.
So do you put jelly bean bean to mean that you'll refer to jelly bean as bean from now on?
So bean is the name of the variable, and that bean is of type struct jelly bean. So what you're referring to potentially is like a type definition where I would put something in between that curly bracket and the semicolon. So the bean is over here where I declared that I want to use it. So I've declared that I want to have a variable of name bean, and it's going to have type struct jelly bean.
Oh, okay. Right. Oh, yes, and then that bean will use every single...
Yeah, and so then I can access anything inside that bean because it's got a whole bunch of things inside it off that type off that structure.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you say bean.weight equals 6.4, since we did a double, if you had said a bean.weight is equal to just 6, would that cause error? Like when
No, it's just going to give it 0.00000, yeah. What do you reckon? Is it about to quit? Yep. I was like, let's pretend I'm the machine, but I really cannot pretend here that I'm the DCC. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me try and kill it. There you go. Now you don't have to feel so bad when nothing is working as well. Come on. Why? Who's due tonight? I'm going to complain. I'm going to complain. There's too many people on the server. Get off my server. I want a personal server. Don't worry, we do clear out everyone from the servers during exams. Okay, here we go. It's running, it's running, it's running. Yes, it's back, it's back, it's back. Maybe. Here we go. There we go. So look at this. So now it's printing out exactly what I assigned to that variable. Where did it go? It was just there 2 seconds ago. I saw it. My God, it hates me. Okay, the jelly bean of color C has amount 5, and that's exactly what I had assigned to those variables. The character was C, and the color and the amount was 5. So with structures, you define it outside your main, in between the curly brackets with a semicolon at the end. You can have a whole bunch of related components in there. You declare it inside your main, so you have the name of the variable and what type you want it to be of. So in this case, it's struct jellybean. And then you assign by using the dot. So you use the variable name, then you have the dot, and then you state which member of that structure you want to assign it to. And I can have anything else in there as well, obviously, as I wish. So that is a structure, and we will use them more inside our code as we kind of move on next week. But this is just an introduction to what a structure is and how to use it in the most basic way. Okay, who has ever heard of something called an enum? Few people have heard of enums. Who has used enums? Who has loved enums? Who has, I don't know. What, Tom, why are you making, what? Outrageous. All right. Enums are funny in C. They're not as definitive as they are in other language in terms of their usefulness is not as vast as they are in other languages. But basically, an enum data type, so an enumerator, is defined as something called an enum, and what it does is it enumerates whatever variables you have. So it assigns integer values, basically, to whatever it is you have as your enum definition. So you will really not see the usefulness of them in 1511, I don't think, because we use enums in very small ways. And sometimes you'll think, well, I could have hash defined that and called it a day because you have about 4 or 5 things. And that is true. But enums can make your code more readable because you're, again, combining things together that kind of relate together. And you don't have to remember what numbers were assigned because it does it for you. But one of the most useful places for it, well, there's many, but one of the most useful places, if you think to like computing error codes, okay, there's, I don't know, 100 of them or whatever, maybe 1,000. And you've probably gotten those error messages, you know, error 1,375 minus 500, some random number, I don't know, means nothing. And so we can define, usually they're enumerator types, so they're defined inside that enum. And what happens is each one is assigned a number. All right, now I've been very naughty here and I've gone against our style guide as well because I've typed the enums in small letters. And we will not do that. I'm going to show you an enum. So same thing with an enum as with a struct. You define it outside of your main function. And then you can use it inside the main. So again, you declare it and then you use it inside the main as well. So it kind of looks like this, okay? And this is just another data type. You might not think, why am I using this? It will still not be clear for a little bit, and then it will become a little bit more clear. Maybe never in C, but it will. Hang on. Here we go. Come on, please. Oh my God. Okay. All right, so let's have a look at this piece of code. What should we define as our enum? I don't know. What should we have? I had days of the week. Let's just do days of the week. Why not? Okay, so I might define days of the week. I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So what happens now is each one of these is going to get a value automatically assigned to it. Okay, yeah?
Don't you have to keep the name of the...
I do, yep, absolutely, yep. So right now I've got an enum, it doesn't have a name. Again, like in a struct, it needs to have a name. So let's call it weekdays, if it will type for me, weekdays, okay? So enum to define, the keyword is enum, then weekdays, and then we put curly brackets. You'll see I'll keep it all on the same line, and then a semicolon again to finish it off. And I will have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So what happens is automatically it enumerates these Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So it starts from 0 and then just adds 1 each time. Now that's useful because in terms of readability inside my code, I don't have to remember what number it stands for. I can literally just use whatever's inside this bracket and it will know the number that it refers to because it's automatically done. So for example, I'll declare an enum. So the same way as a struct, I'll say which enum I want to use because I can have more than one in here. So again, very creative names. So I've said that my variable name is days and it is of type enum weekdays, okay? So that means that I'm declaring that that's what I want to use in my code. And now I can kind of go through and use it as well. So if you look on here, I've kind of done a little example for it. So when I initialized it, I literally set it to a particular, whatever was inside my enum bracket. So if I go here, I can initialize it and I can say that my days is now equal to, and would you believe I've typed that? Yep, there we go, it's woken up. Today's Thursday, so let's make it Thursday. All right, now if I print it out, what it will give me is it will give me where I am at. So it will give me what number it is. What do you reckon? Yeah.
Earlier you said we went against the style guide in using simple letters, right?
Yeah, so here in my lecture slides, I've used small letters.
Oh, so inside the curly brackets has to be capitalized.
Capital letters because they're like a kind of, they're not like a hash define, but similar. So imagine doing like 7 hash defines. I don't really want to do that. So what I'm doing is I'm using an enum instead, and it will enumerate them for me. So now I'll print out the day of the week is, and this is not a particularly great example of how to use enums, but it's the one that makes it kind of clear what happens with the numbers. It does start from 0, which is, you can force it to start from something else, which is what I'll show you next. And you can assign different values as well. Okay, so I'll save that, and let's run it. Okay, compiles, yay. Okay, and the day of the week is 3 because it said this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. Okay, so it's counted out that it's 3. Yeah?
Does that mean if you plus days with 1, you'll get Friday?
Yes. Yeah, so I can, that's, well, it will get, you won't get Friday, you'll get the next number after whatever days is, so you'll get 4. So enums, it's not easy to go backwards to whatever the actual readable name for it is. It's really the enumerator that you're looking for. So it will give you, if you do this days plus 1, it will just give you whatever the next number would be. So 0, 1, 2, 3, and then so it will give you 4 in this case. So if I save and run that, then it will give me 4 because it's added 1 more onto that enumerator. Okay, so what I can do is I can also force different values, okay? And I can force them wherever I want. It doesn't have to be, at the beginning. It doesn't have to be, oh, I haven't forced them in the lecture notes. How rude of me. Oh, well, I'm about to force it here. Okay, so what I can do is I can say, all right, maybe I want to start counting at 1. So I can say that's equal to 1, and what it will do now, wherever the number is, it will just add 1 onto the next ones, okay? What I can do, I can be really annoying as well, and I can say, okay, you know what? I think Wednesday should be 1 now. The VLab doesn't think so. I'll say it's 5, okay? So what do you reckon Thursday will be now? Yeah, 6. So we'll just add on from there and continue. I am just losing it. And continue counting. Okay, so you can reset it at any stage and force different enumerators in there. Yeah.
Will Tuesday be 4 if Wednesday is 5, or will Tuesday still be 1?
Very good question. So for those online, the question was, will Tuesday be 4 in this case if Wednesday is 5? And no, Tuesday will still be 1. So we'll go 0, 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on and so forth. And then it will go from there. Yeah?
With this, could we then say Friday equals 3 or something? Is that possible?
So,
Thursday 6, Friday 3, 4.
yeah, you could do, come on. Okay, nope, that's not what I wanted to do. It's going to add a D onto Thursday. I'm sorry. Okay, so let's say we're forcing it here, okay? What's going to happen?
0 is 1.
What do we think is going to happen? It's now it doesn't see a Thursday. Come on, here we go. Okay, there we go. Let's try that. Okay, so now we'll have 0, 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5. So do we think that's possible? Okay, so that means there's now 2 of the same. It compiles all right. What happens if it runs?
Do they just both have the same value?
So it doesn't mind that. Okay, but you can't have 2 enums and have the same. So I can't have one that's like another enum in here and have another Friday in that, so equals to the same thing. So there is some scoping rules in there, which we will go over, but I'm running out of time, as per usual. Okay, I'm going to finish. We will come back to enums. Do not worry. Enums, we will come back to them. And let me know if it was too fast, too slow, too anything. We will come back to enums, and we will come back to loops, and then we're going to do functions on Monday. Thank you, everyone.